So, this is another Delta video. The rye that wasn't in the package that I ordered is supposed to be in the package I just received. And also, my other brew that I started when on the last video, while I could let it sit for a little longer on the stove, I'm just gonna bottle it because I'm out of that particular type of brew right now, and I'd like to have some available. I might run a second one with the bag, but maybe not. We'll see. Sometimes I do that. But let's do the unboxing and confirm that what we were looking for is in the box. And some coffee. I also just had to go do a blood test and a urine screen, so I need to reconstitute after this. This brew should be great for that, so I'll probably drink some of it after I bottle it. Oh, and it's bubbling. See, normally in the past I would have pasteurized it again, but I've started, and remember, I'm not using yeast in this. I've started to realize when it's doing that, it's just naturally, honestly, just forming flavors. It's pretty cool. So, I don't worry about that now. And here's the box. I need my knife, hold on. I love opening the Delta Brewing boxes with my Delta Force knife. This karambit is quite handy. And just a reminder, I don't hurt people with it. I use it as a tool for many things. I'm glad that my blood test went well, and the urine screen was fine. The last LabCorp that I went to in Alexandria really pissed me off. I think the actual tech may have not been a problem, but the people at the front desk at the last one were, I don't know, questionable. Let's put it that way. I didn't like it. And I went to Springfield this time, and the people in the lobby were annoying, but the actual employees were fine. And the person who drew my blood did a really good job, so, you know, it's all a matter of perspective. Oh, looks like I got some. Dude. Aren't these just oats again? I'm gonna have to tell him. I'm gonna have to send him a picture of this and be like, am I wrong? If that's rye, I'm gonna have to send him another payment. Cause I don't think that's what, I mean, it says flaked rye. Maybe I'm unaware of this. Where's my phone? I left it over here. Yeah, I'm gonna have to take a picture of this. Let me Google what flaked rye looks like. Flaked rye. Whole grain rye that has been steamed and rolled flat. Okay, that is what it looks like. I'm gonna have to tell him that's my bad and I need to send him another payment. I thought it was oats. I could have sworn that was oats. Now I know. And as you can see, I'm gonna be as honest as possible. Delta Brewing Systems. I don't feel guilty, but I feel responsible. Let me put it that way. How much is the flaked oats? That's what I need to find out now. Flaked. It was only a couple dollars. Hey, where'd my message go? I was typing something. How much was it? It was 1, 2, 2, 3, 4.
I was getting so concerned.
I just said no. He said it's fine, and then, and that I'm all good. And I said I'll just make sure to continue ordering with him to make up for it. So, anyway, what a cool guy. He hooked me up with a bit of extra rye. I could have. Doesn't that look like oats though? Doesn't this literally look like oats that you make oatmeal out of? It actually, and this is why it's so cool to learn stuff like that, because look at what naked oats look like. Naked oats look like regular grains. That's what they look like before they get rolled out. Now, I feel like to most people, most people who are running a business like that, maybe a few dollars isn't that important, or not that it's not important, but that it's not a deal breaker. You know what I mean? It basically, he just bought me a drink. That's kind of what it comes down to, which is sick. And he gave me some extra hops. So I should say, And then I said, thanks for the extra hops. I'll be enjoying a Sultana brew at some point. So that was actually really exciting. That's pretty exciting. And you know what I'm going to do? Instead of using this bag for another one, I saw some deer in the yard last night, and I compost. It smells good. I compost my, here, let me eat a little one. Having a hard time zipping it back up. Oh, that one's nice. It's got a good, strong, very strong mid-tone. And it's spicy, too. And pretty bitter, also. Well, now I've got quite a bit of this stuff. And I think that kind of solves my problem on this particular item for a while. I'll put it right here. Alright. So let's get to bottling my brew. So the way I like to do it is I use this thing, and then I take a bowl, and then I get this out of here. And like I said, I probably could leave it in there for longer considering the amount of stuff that I used. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to make a second brew out of this one. We're just going to go ahead and do that because it's still got a lot of stuff in it. I don't like wasting resources. So I'll just get... Woo! Dang it. I'll just get another one going. And by the way, yeah, I know I'm in possession of quite a lot of rye at this point now. But, and like I mentioned before, the whole... reason that I'm so like that I was so like particular about whether or not it was actually rye or not, and like getting paranoid about it, is that like I said, like my house got raided because I was doing MHRB extractions, and that really shouldn't have happened because I was just using it for myself. And now I have a ketamine prescription. So it's obviously good for me. Ketamine and dimethyltryptamine types of substances are definitely good for me medicinally, proven by the fact that I got a prescription. And then the whole point is that that's like a very standard nutrient. And so the thing about rye is that the lore is that, you know, it can be mixed with ergot mold and create lysergamide. And that's why I was worried about whether or not it was actually rye and if there was a problem with the packages, because I was worried that I was being gang stalked again. Or maybe not again, but continuously. And, you know, there's still a federal initiative to decriminalize all psychedelics. You know, and frankly, you know, life is psychedelic. It's not really... I think people need to get over the stigma of, like, oh, they're just tripping, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, how come people can drink alcohol? How come people can be drunk as a motherfucking bitch? And honestly, you know, people should learn how to drink responsibly and drink, like, good products and not just poison themselves, because alcohol isn't really supposed to be poisonous in and of itself. The type of alcohol that you can make with a brew, I'm just not ingesting it because of a lot of factors at the moment. You know, specifically putting yeast in there and everything. Complicated process that we're going through here. But my point is, if people can drink like mass-produced alcoholic drinks which are poisonous because of the way that they're made, and they can die from it, and they can harm people and everything, and that's legal, then why is it that I can't just have a naturally occurring substance that realistically is just a building block for my neurotransmitters, which I need to function. And plus I have mental health issues, and they're usually caused by a lack of nutrients, a lack of the proper neurotransmitters. And you know, for a while they were trying to treat me with stuff like, you know, SSRIs. Oh, well, let's just, you know, block the mechanism of action, and then he can't complain anymore, or whatever. It's like, why don't you just help me get the right nutrients in my body and stop gatekeeping? Like, I need ketaminergic, dimethyltryptamine-oriented content in my food, among other things. My food and drink needs to have it, or else my brain doesn't work. And the ethanol is just like a sugar. It's supposed to just be like a nutrient that helps you function better. And yes, so what if there's a GABAergic property? It shouldn't be so overwhelming that I can't fucking function. So my point is valid, and it actually just illustrates that there's tyranny afoot, but there's also good people. There's also good people. So, you know, it's just a matter of time where we need to keep doing the right thing, focusing on what's important, which is our health and our well-being, and working together. I also believe that, like, when someone says, like, oh, you're tripping, and that's why it's illegal, it's like, I'm pretty sure that behavior is from poison. That behavior that you're referring to is because something's toxic, and the neurotransmitters are interacting with the toxins, and the toxins are fighting my neurotransmitters. I don't think that's from fucking having normal neurotransmitters in my brain. I think there's something wrong, and it's being exposed by the fact that I finally have the tools to deal with it, or the resources to deal with it. And anyway, the whole point is that I'm not, quote unquote, running an acid lab. I'm not making a big ass batch of acid to sell to people. I'm literally just aware that I've had addiction issues for like half of my life. And I realized that the reason it's happening is because I'm craving a nutrient, and instead of getting that nutrient in the products that I buy, I get poisoned. And the poison is paired with a Pavlovian trigger to make me think that I'm going to get the nutrients I want. And then I just keep going back to the same fucked up products, and it keeps fucking my life up. And then you can call it big pharma or whatever you want. They keep making a fucking bag off of me almost dying. Or in some cases, maybe potentially clinically dying and being resuscitated so that they can run it back up on me. And what I realized was, I'm not chasing a drug high. That's not really what I want. What I want is stability and nutrients, and if I feel good as a result of that, then that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted. And so I'm ordering whole grains. And you know, hops is good too. It's a green plant. You know what I mean? It's definitely got some vitamins in it, doesn't it? And the whole grains have complex carbohydrates. And probably proteins too. Probably has good proteins in it. So You know, this is just like, I made a video about this particular brew last time. It's just, you know, grains. It's just grains and hops and sugar, and rice hulls. And all I did was put it on medium heat and let it create like a soup or a tea. And it's only been a few days. And I didn't put any yeast in it. So the product should just be like a malt drink with hops. And also, then the only other thing I'm going to do with it is put some of that candy syrup in it and make it really sweet. It's kind of like making a baby formula almost, except for it's for me. What's next? I still have some stuff left. Let's see what other containers we have. Okay, I've got this. This is probably the one I'll drink today. Or like, you know, I have 6 of them already. So. It's a really nice color too. And one day maybe I'll be in a situation where I'll feel more comfortable using a yeast or whatever. But I also mentioned at some point during some video or something, you know, I documented it somewhere, that this bread that I got from Whole Foods, let me show you. I was literally about to make some toast with it and I noticed it was molding, except I was like, wow, that's a really interesting mold. Let me try that out. Look at that mold. It's blue. You see that? And when I ate some of it, I've eaten psychedelic mushrooms before, and this kind of smells and tastes a little bit like that. So I was like, you know what? I gotta put some in something. And you know, I tried some of it, and it's actually pretty good. This one I haven't tried yet. But like, let me smell it. Yeah, I mean, you know, you got to watch out for spoiled food. And like, actually, let me open this because it's starting to get to the point where I think I got to either use it soon or toss it, because once again, I said, like, you know, you got to watch for food spoiling. Just because I think that it's going to be safe, it doesn't mean it's always going to be safe. I could get food poisoning if I'm not careful. But, you know, like, it's all about experimenting. And like I said, there's a federal decriminalization. You're not supposed to try to entrap people, and like raid their house with murder weapons and then charge them with felonies for something that's supposed to be decriminalized. Now, they did an Ackerman plea. This is where I was standing when I saw them. They did an Ackerman plea, but that's for bank robbers. They're the ones who robbed me like a bank, because they took a bunch of my shit too. And I got some of it back, but, you know, my plea says guilty of 2 felonies with a non-guilty verdict, a withheld non-guilty verdict. It means I didn't do shit wrong and they're just fucking assholes. And like I was saying, at a federal decriminalization level, even if it's an initiative, especially if it's an initiative, that means that at the state level, there needs to be absolutely no crime in the country, and state departments need to withhold prosecution on these sorts of cases and not initiate full-on frontal assaults with entrapment. They're literally supposed to be helping. If you have no crime in your fucking vicinity, which, you know, is pretty unlikely, you know, because it's like even jaywalking is supposed to be prosecuted on before this. So it's like, it doesn't exempt the state from following through. It's a federal thing. You think it just applies in D.C. It doesn't just apply in D.C. It's just that it's most obvious in DC because there's no state government in DC. It's only federal government in DC. That doesn't exempt state governments from having to follow this initiative. What it means is that you're supposed to take care of everything else. And then if you find that there's and you're supposed to help other departments in other states before you start crashing out on the fucking trippers. That's my whole point. It's been proven that psychedelic substances are beneficial, and it's just going to take some time for the laws to change, because federal laws in America require a lot of movement in order to get them changed. Now, should it be that difficult? Absolutely not. But my whole point is, like, for example, you've heard people call K, like, vitamin K, maybe you have, like ketamine, like vitamin K. Yeah, it's basically a fucking vitamin. It's a little piece, it's like a building block for a neurotransmitter. And then it's got a double bond to an oxygen and probably a salt compound. Same thing with psilocybin. Psilocybin is basically just a dimethyltryptamine molecule bonded to a complex salt. Same thing with lysergamide, although lysergamide, it's probably dimethyltryptamide with a lysergic bond or something. I don't know. I didn't look it up yet. Just like I didn't look up the flaked rye. I had to look that up, okay? I had to look up the ketonic bond because I wasn't aware that doing a salt extraction on dimethyltryptamine results in ketamine, because that's a very vague concept. Just saying ketamine is pretty vague. It could be any ketonically bonded amine. Anyway, my point is that if I'm creating food products, if I'm allowed to use yeast in rye to produce an alcoholic result, I should be able to use mold in rye to create a lysergic result. That's my whole point. And the argument of like, well, alcohol is safer than lysergamine is absolutely retarded. Pardon my French. It's just absolutely unacceptable, and no offense to mentally disabled people. Anyway, I gotta poop. Anyway, poop successful, but my whole point is that this idea of criminality when applied to creating effective foodstuffs is just absolutely insane. And let's be completely honest about this. The fucking United States of America has been dealing with a lot of corruption, okay? So the basic premise of federality, which is just people being able to come to an agreement on a large scale, and, you know, state is just, I said so. So it's like, we've got a problem when it comes to people enforcing laws that are essentially unconstitutional. You realize, I want you to even understand that federal laws in general are by and large unconstitutional. I hate to bring this up, but, and I might have to poop again because I ate a lot last night. I hate to bring this up like this, but pretty much any law that isn't, actually pretty much any law is just supposed to be a guideline. The Constitution quite clearly outlines some very important points about what our country is supposed to be. And some people would argue the amendments are unnecessary because they are attempting to clarify and modify things that are supposed to be inherently in the Constitution. That they are not supposed to be extra rules. They're supposed to just clarify what's in the Constitution. And so we have some, you just look back, okay? This all started, we had our first president, and we had a single party system. It was just a democratic republic. We're all on the same side, a democratic republic. Then after that, it got split into a two-party system. And what was said? A nation united, or a nation divided cannot stand, or something like that. United we stand, divided we fall. Something to that effect. You know, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have rules in general. I'm just saying the way that people are using them to selectively enforce things and gatekeep some very important shit just for themselves, just because they think that they can be more violent than you, is absolutely insane and goes against the very fabric of society. That is not societal behavior. That's criminal behavior. So therefore, extracting the dimethyltryptamine as I was doing from the MHRB was law enforcement behavior. I was enforcing my constitutional right, A, to a pursuit of happiness, and you know what, I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole right now. We're just gonna move on. You get where I'm coming from, and if you don't, I'm concerned about you. And the whole point here is that health, wealth, and well-being are the most important thing in this scenario, and that for other people to arbitrarily claim that they are the ones in charge when they don't have any realistic, substantial evidence to provide other than their ability to be violent, that's not how this is supposed to be. It's supposed to be that those sorts of people are supposed to be helping me, not preventing me. They're supposed to be making sure I have what I need. They're supposed to be, if necessary, offering to check in on my project to make sure it's not getting out of hand and becoming dangerous. And that's not supposed to be from a corrupt perspective of like, oh yeah, no, it's totally dangerous. Let me take it from you so that I can use it instead of you, and I'm going to sell it. You're going to prison so that you can't do anything about it. That's not how that's supposed to work. And if you think that's how that's supposed to work, then maybe you should spend some time in prison. I don't agree with prisons in general as a form of punishment, by the way. Prisons are supposed to be a safe place for people to get their fucking shit together. Either that or a place where you can choose to live away from outward society because you find yourself more comfortable in a system like that. It's not supposed to be a punishment. It's illegal to use prison as a punishment because it's torture. It goes against human rights, and saying that, oh, well, this person's a felon, so therefore they're not a human. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. What the fuck is a felony anyway? That's someone admitting that they mishandled someone. Anyway, I think I've said enough on that for now. I'll probably have some more to say about it later. But we need to stay on task. I need to clean up the water I spilled. I need to finish packaging up these bottles. It's like this. Imagine you baked some bread, right? And then a kill team came in your house, stole your loaf of bread, stole your recipe book that you made yourself, and then said, you're facing life in prison if you don't let us get away with this. Against your will, in a way that's obviously going to result in harm to you. Imagine that scenario, and then imagine how you might feel about that. And then remember that there's a lot of other people going through some weird-ass shit, too. Anyway, this whole situation with ICE, too, ever since Trump was elected, and I always try to keep an open mind and go, you know, he's still got a family, and you know what, you also got to open your mind up and say maybe he's being used by a criminal organization so that they can get away with whatever it is they're doing and just blame him. You know? You got to keep your mind open. Maybe he is an asshole. Maybe he is just a criminal asshole. But maybe he's not. Maybe he's being used. I don't know. I don't know the answer. But I do know right from wrong. And I know that attacking people of color just because you're saying that inherently by being people of color and not agreeing with a white supremacist agenda to stockpile resources against people who frankly probably produced them in the first place, just because you don't agree with that, it doesn't mean that you deserve to be killed or tortured or sent into a place where you could get tortured and killed. And yeah, there's more to it than that, but that's essentially what it boils down to. And it pisses me the fuck off, but there's nothing I can do about it except continue doing the right thing. A little bit of candy syrup, 240 this time. I believe that means it's a little more potent or whatever, a little more concentrated as far as the sugars go. 180 on this one. Bigger batch, I guess, but less concentrated. I'm using a little bit of each just because I like to get down like that. And because it's still room temperature, it'll mix in better than if I refrigerated it and then did this. And it turns a nice brown. It turns a really nice brown. And then I refrigerate it. By the way, my concern about the main reason why people, especially with a federal decriminalization initiative active, why they would crash out on someone who's making essentially what boils down to a recovery medicine. Why would you attack someone who's doing the right thing, right? Okay, the answer is they were doing the wrong thing, obviously, but what does that really mean? Now, another thing that happened in this area right before they attacked me, or around the time, is that a bunch of cocaine seizures occurred. Meaning that there was a cocaine trade active. I'm not against cocaine in general. What I don't like is people behaving inappropriately just because there's some sort of reward at play. That goes for everyone. That goes for natives. That goes for people of color. It goes for black people. It goes for white people, Asian people, whoever. And my guess here is that they took all that cocaine, and maybe not all of it, but my guess is that they took it and they turned quite a bit of it into crack cocaine, and then they were selling it in this area, and they saw me as a threat because I was producing a chemical out of organic plant matter that could treat the sickness that crack causes. And that would ruin their business model, which, by the way, not a good business model. I thought we established that already. And so they attacked me because they thought, oh, well, this guy could counteract our evil plan to get the population addicted and steal all their assets because they'll die. And we can use them as slaves to do our work that we're supposed to be doing. Ha ha ha. Yeah, fuck that. I wasn't explicitly planning on opposing you people. I was actually kind of just gonna, if it got to that point, first of all, just focus on my own recovery. And then if it got beyond that, who am I to, if you want to use crack, that's up to you. But If you're just going to ruin my entire environment and make people be, like, completely, like, impossible to be around and, like, ruin my life because you're trying to scam people, I don't like that. For good reason. But instead of being like, oh, well, I'm going to attack you for doing this, I was just like, well, then, you know, if it gets to that, I can help people recover. I don't even have to do it myself. I designed a modified extraction tech so that you could do it at home. You could do it at your place for yourself. And if you're going to be on crack anyway, why not do it? Why not do it yourself? You probably got the time and energy. And that's kind of why I didn't press the issue immediately on, you know, getting the attorney to file a motion. Also, he's being corrupt too. But, like, you know, to get my book back. First of all, I remembered the method because I did it multiple times before they stopped me. No one interfered until Trump got elected. Then all of a sudden they're holding holding packages at custom. Actually, they might have held the package before he got elected. I can't remember, but the point is that the timing is obvious. That's what I'm getting at. And so now my opinion is not, oh, let's tolerate people who behave that way and just help them. Now my opinion is, don't tolerate that behavior because obviously they don't have enough responsibility to do it correctly. That's my opinion. Don't crash out on your number one supporter, is what I'm saying. I even offered to volunteer with that SWAT team. And they're like, oh, well, you have to be on the force for blah, blah, blah. Bitch, I'm a steward. Shut the fuck up. Be on the force. You're on my force. You're on my force. It's my force. And then they raid my house. You know how disrespectful that is? Insanely disrespectful. So anyway, I'm glad the rye got to me. And I gotta be honest with you that if they try to raid my house again, I don't think I'm gonna be as cooperative as last time. So, you know, shouts out Delta because I don't know if anyone watching this video, if anyone watches this video, is aware of this, but there's a little thing called Delta Force. And it's basically our nation's top SWAT team. And let me tell you something really important. If you're going to run an operation at that level, you don't have time to tolerate the type of stupid motherfucking behavior that the FCPD SWAT team is engaged in. I guarantee you, you'll get killed immediately at that level if you behave like that. Straight up. It's your boy. Signs of death. And let me explain something to you. If you've ever smoked DMT in a religious setting, you'll probably know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. If you have any experience with the operational modality that a proper effective SWAT team, a team of operators needs to engage in order to stay safe and be successful in their operation, and you've smoked DMT, especially more than once, and actually had some revelations, you know that the reason that, like, religion and stuff exists, first of all, is not to control people in a way that they can't function. It's to remind you, you do these things the right way. You stay on the right side of God, because if you don't, there's massive fucking consequences in these situations. Massive consequences. Sometimes consequences occur to people who didn't cause them, and that's God's way of saying, come on back up to heaven. But some people make mistakes that can't be undone, and they have to deal with the consequences of their actions. And people at the top level of operational capacity should know the difference between right and wrong. It should be very fucking obvious to them. And why? And maybe you have to learn your lessons sometimes, like we all do. Everyone has to learn their lessons. But Delta means change. It means we adapt. So that's why I support, it's important to support our troops, but it's also important to not just arbitrarily support quote-unquote troops that don't stand for what they're supposed to stand for. That's my whole point. We're supposed to be protecting people who are doing the right thing, especially people who have administered service, whether they are civilian or military. If they've contributed to the greater good, and they're continuing to contribute to the greater good, you should be helping them do so. That's my whole point. And that this corruption circle has got to come to an end. There's no other option. For human survival, we have to come together on these issues. And that's why, like I said, that's why I appreciate this brewing, what's it called? The brewing company. Because these are whole foods. Whole foods. This is just nutrients. And yeah, I have to put in the work to turn this into something that is easier to consume. But that's part of the process. That's also why I was extracting the dimethyltryptamine myself. It's why the ketamine prescription that I have, while effective and helpful, is not suiting certain needs that I have. But I also radically accept that during this time, I have to focus on other things. For example, I'm learning how to brew a lot better because I wasn't doing this. I was doing, before I was doing the dimethyltryptamine extractions. It's essentially the same thing, just with a different result. You see what I'm saying? God told me, okay, now I want you to switch to the troches or troches or however you want to put it. And then he's just like, okay, I'll guide you to this other process. It's very similar, but it's very different at the same time. And I want you to learn how to do all these different things, not just learn how to do this one thing, because that way you'll get stuck in your ways when I need you to be adaptable. Not that I should never do the dimethyltryptamine extraction from the MHRB ever again, because it was extremely effective. But there's a time and a place for everything, and if I fight against that call of the wild, well then I'm not practicing what I'm preaching. If I try to go against the fact that there's tension in this area over the MHRB, or was, I don't know, still is, because I'm still on a probationary period, well then, if I fight that and I try to order it again and go through that process again, knowing that there's a problem, because now that once there's been a problem, if I fight against that, then I'm not practicing what I preach. I can fight against it in other ways, such as making it clear that I know that what I was doing wasn't wrong. Making it clear that I know that they are in the wrong. Making it clear that I'm not going to stop trying to get healthy just because they impeded one way of doing so. I'm not going to stop connecting with my higher power just because they took away one of my rituals. And I'm not going to continue supporting them doing that sort of thing. I'm going to make it very clear that if I'm going to continue supporting them at all, I will only support them getting their shit together and going in the right direction. I don't appreciate people in power taking advantage of vulnerable people. Now, if this was a house full of military weapons, and I was in on a very specific type of operation, and they came in with an armored vehicle and, you know, M4s and a drone, that would be understandable. But I'm an unarmed civilian. Any and all, you know, potential prowess that I would report with regards to the ability to perform SWAT actions is with regards to potential drafting. Do you see where I'm coming from here? With regards to potential drafting. And there's a lot of stuff in between that is neither here nor there, except for the fact that I've proven beyond a reasonable doubt that there is a potential capacity for service. That's all. And if we go beyond that, it's a completely different discussion that should be held in a completely different context. That's all it is. So resorting to combat against a civilian who is simply trying to support his troops and be in a service-ready state directly goes against everything they stand for, and that is what unconstitutional means. Constitution it's just like a video game. It's just like an RPG. Your Constitution stat refers to things like endurance, heart health. You know, it's basically heart health. It's your health. That's all this is. So you're going against your own health by attacking me in that scenario. And people get confused and think that they're going to get something out of it. Maybe short term, but it's like taking a cyanide pill laced with fentanyl. It's like, yeah, you got a little fentanyl in your system, buddy, but you're about to fucking die. Maybe, if there's enough cyanide. Some people survive cyanide. Depends on how much there is. It basically just congeals your blood, right? It just bubbles your blood and makes it congeal. Okay, well, what if your immune system is strong enough to handle it? What if you've got enough dimethyltryptamine in your system to where your body can radically reject the cyanide? See, radical rejection. You notice DBT has radical acceptance, but it also has opposite action. See what I'm getting at here? Okay, I think that's enough for now on that topic. I'm going to taste, where'd the bottle go? I had another bottle. I'm going to taste the brew. Yep, here it is. This is the one I was working on. Delicious. It's beautiful. I already have a pre-roll done. This is just CBD. It's hemp. This is hemp from Tweedle Farms. Another place that I appreciate for providing, another medicinal item that I need. And the reason why I'm fine with just smoking cannabidiol hemp instead of having a THC-oriented plant is that THC, the main difference between the THC and the CBD, tetrahydroxy. What's a hydroxy ring, guys? It's an opiate ring, isn't it? Right? So, I can make those in my own body. If I ingest enough CBD, and I've got enough of the other nutrients that I need, I just have to actually smoke quite a bit of CBD and do the work for my body to actually turn it into THC. And at that point, I don't need a lot of THC in my body because the THC is built by my body for my body, and I still have a lot of cannabidiol in my system, which is also really, it's the building block, but it's also still useful. You know what I mean? So I don't need right now to ingest a bunch of THC. What I need is the cannabidiol. I need the cannabidiol in my system, and if my body produces, really the reason that my body would produce tetrahydroxycannabidiol if I'm ingesting cannabidiol is if my body becomes completely saturated with cannabidiol and has to figure out a way to start, like, it's like if you run out of space on your hard drive but you still need to store more stuff, you start taking folders and you start turning them into zip folders, right? And that way you've it's like a compression algorithm. It's a compounding. It's a compounding algorithm. That's the way I'm describing it. I'm sure that if we can get our states and stuff into a better orientation and we clear out these federal labs from corruption, we could probably dial in this line of reasoning to explain it in a way where it's not just me talking about it off my dome piece. You know what I mean? But the general consensus between myself and this planet Earth is that what I'm getting at is completely valid and 100% relevant to this issue. Am I looking forward to consuming THC-oriented plants sometime in the future? Yeah, that'd be great, but right now I've got what I need. That's my whole point. I don't need anything else than this right now. My body's young. I'm working on something specific here, which is getting myself, like my body, to take care of itself. Not just to be taken care of, but to take care of myself. It's like when you get broken down all the way, you need to rebuild from the bottom up. There's no point in me smoking THC weed right now because it's not going to help. It's going to skip steps. And this is what paying dues was all about, by the way. You're supposed to start at the bottom and work your way up for a reason, not because you're inferior as a human being in general to other people who are already climbing the ladder, but simply because it does not benefit you to skip those steps because you'll just revert. You need to build on a solid foundation. And then once you reach this point where you've built pretty much as you can on that foundation, then you can take the next step. And yeah, you can skip steps, but like I said, you're going to be building on a foundation that isn't entirely solid. That's all I'm saying. It's your choice, but knowing better is really important. Let's go smoke this CBD joint and just chill out. By the way, if you'll notice, I didn't try to put the moldy bread in there because it's kind of the same thing where this has the building blocks of the nutrients I need. You know, it's interesting to use a catalyst to kind of accelerate the formation process of an essential nutrient, but by and large, a lot of my content comes from just the basic nutrients. And for those of you out there who are thinking, well, you know, you haven't really covered your idea of selling this stuff in general. Well, as you can see, I'm buying the raw products. I'm buying the raw nutrients. I don't think you shouldn't be allowed to sell it. I just think that you shouldn't sell, like if I was making, let's go back to the dimethyltryptamine extraction that I was doing. I should focus on myself first. And then if I build a system that has created such an abundance as to which moving the product in a safe environment with the understanding of my community became a necessity in order not to waste the product, at that point it would make sense to distribute the product with the consent of those around me. The consent and the need. But that's not where I was. Yeah, I gave away an extraction one time, and I also, what was it? Yeah, I gave away part of an extraction to someone who simply would not accept it without sending me money. But it wasn't a large amount of money. And as soon as I started exploring the idea of expanding, I realized that's not what I'm supposed to be doing right now. It's okay that I'm helping this person, but it just doesn't, it's just like I was saying, you start here and work your way up to that point because that's the natural progression. And at that point, when I realized that, I was like, this is not supposed to be making me money because I need it. I need it, and I need to be using it and not depleting my resources. It's just like if you get a prescription for something, especially if you're younger, I feel like, and you set, let's say, I'll use an example of Adderall prescription. You know, especially younger people who get an Adderall prescription and they got people asking for Adderall, they don't have a prescription. It's like, okay, you sell a couple pills, you made $10, $20, and then you realize, oh shit, I needed those to study. Maybe I shouldn't be selling them. $10, $20 just turned into weed. And if I want to smoke weed, I shouldn't be using the money that's supposed to be fucking... I shouldn't be turning my Adderall into weed, because I need my Adderall. If I want to smoke weed, I should go out and mow someone's lawn or something. Weed laws are changing. Oh, and that was my secondary point. Sorry to bring this up again, but it's kind of important. That they crashed out on me. The county SWAT team crashed out on me over something that was under a federal decriminalization initiative, and yet this county has been building dispensaries, cannabis dispensaries with THC cannabis, which is still federally quote-unquote illegal, except for under the same exact type of initiative that decriminalized the dimethyltryptamine. So they're under the same initiative, and yet they selectively chose to use lethal force against me while they support an operation that is under the same directive, same type of directive. So if you can see where I'm coming from as to why that might have been upsetting to me, you would understand why I am intentionally continuing to try to just do the right thing. What it comes down to is that it was a murder attempt. They attempted to murder me. That's pretty much the only logical explanation that you could come up with. And then after that, all I heard, like every time I would bring something up about problems, they'd just be like, well, it's just the nature of the beast. It's like, oh my god, you people are just admitting that you're trying to murder me. Even if you calling it, like, why would you be calling it eliminating competition? I'm not competing with you. Why are you competing with me? Why are you competing with me if I'm not competing with you? I was under the impression that we were cooperating. It's called a betrayal. And I did not betray anyone. I'm just trying to recover from some real ass little niggy shit that occurred without my permission and only part of my understanding. And once again, if we're going to go into that, I would love to have that conversation another time under different circumstances. But a conversation is how we're supposed to deal with that, not a fucking SWAT raid. You can disagree with me, but if you make it one-sided, it questions your integrity. And just to give you a little context as to like,
who am I to talk about all this shit? Blah, blah, blah.
what do you know about SWAT? First of all, I fleshed out this area over the summer with these stones. They were all stacked over here. And I did it for free. The stones were free. We had them for a while. So, you know, we want to talk about Freemasonry. I think we'll save that for another time also. But what I'm about to do is I'm going to finish this hemp cigarette. And then I'm going to go up on top of that roof on the shed. And then I'm going to jump from that roof to this roof. And then I'm going to drop from here down to this area. It's a pretty far drop to land on stone. So you have to be well trained in order to do something like that without hurting yourself. You know, and I've done stuff like this on camera before, but I'm giving you an example of, you know, who am I? Who am I to talk about all this as though I know something? Well, I do know something. But I can only explain it to you with action. I can't explain it to you just with words, or else you'll just continue to ask, well, why are you saying this? And yeah, my knees and ankles might be a little sore after this, but probably not much. Also, I'm going to take off my long sleeve shirt just so I don't accidentally get caught on something. See? Actually, my hips are more sore than my ankles and knees. My back, mostly. Overall, it just felt good, though. Anyway, all right, my feet are a little sore. Not much though. That was a good drop. It's only the second time I've done that particular drop because, like I said, I did the stones this summer. And there used to be a spot a little to the side of that where it was just dirt, and it was, you know, you could drop and the dirt was soft. Last time I did that particular drop, I had to sit at the edge of the roof for a long time and calculate it. But I've been training a lot since then, so that was nice. Anyway, my GoPro battery is about to die. I'm gonna start taking my ketamine also, and I'm probably just gonna play video games or code or something. Anyway, thanks for joining me on this journey here. I'm hoping that we'll have some more videos about these topics in the future.
In typical tripper shit fashion, I remembered something. I've put 25 milligrams of ketamine under my tongue, and it's sitting there now. But I forgot I was going to start my next brew. So let's do that. I'm gonna stop talking quite so much so I can let the ketamine
Absorb in my mouth. Oh, right. I need those bags to do my next brew. I forgot. Ah, there we go. Have a second set of bag. That's a Stuart gene thing, by the way, where I forget. I think it's over and then I forget and I come back. Don't know why, but it is. I often leave the house and then go, oh, I forgot this. Come back in the house. Alright, what should we do? Let's use quite a bit of this in the actual brew as well. Just so that you can see I'm not just trying to quote unquote make LSD. I mean, if this makes LSD too, I wouldn't be angry at that. You know what LSD is for alcoholic drinks? Oh, here it is, guys. The main problem with alcoholic drinks is that they're addictive because you're trying to get more alcohol in your system because you think, oh, that's going to make it better. What if I told you that's not what you need more of, and that the potency is the issue that you're looking for, that the lysergamide makes the brew much more potent, so you don't have to keep drinking so that you get drunk and then you get sick? What if I told you the whole point of lysergamide is that it can actually pair with the alcohol and keep you sober? It's an anti-addictive compound. And it's not anti-addictive because it makes the alcohol not work. It's because it makes it actually work. You're looking for the catalyst. You keep putting the alcohol in your system, but you're looking for the other part of the shit. And you can actually just have the other part of it without the alcohol. And it works also. But the alcohol is a fuel. It's a fuel. It's what it's supposed to be. And then the LSD is like the instructions. It's also a fuel. Anyway, I gotta stop talking to let this ketamine sink in. Let's do this. I'm trying to make sure I don't stockpile as well, and that I actually use the grains. This is the one that he gave me extra with the package that came in today. Let's see. We did that one, we did these two. Let's just do one more. Sultana Cryopop. Warrior. Oh, I forgot to use the whirly block on the last one. I like sugar.
By the way, this water that I'm using, it's just well water from our cabin property. It just doesn't have all the processing additives that the tap water has. My dad's always been drinking this. It's from my grandma's house. It's well water from my grandma's house. It's basically our little native reservation. 75 acres of Blue Ridge Mountains. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put this in the refrigerator. Alright, I just swallowed the first 25 milligrams. I let it sit in my mouth for a while, and then I swallowed the rest of it. It's a quarter of one troche, or trochee, or however you want to say it. Twerka schmacken blugenhocker, Stugenbachen Plakentalker,
Hookendocken, Steakenblager, Hockendocken, Smoke, Blagendoken, Hockentricken, Stockendicken, Stoke, bitch.
Hey guys, let's sync and boot up for some Lil Niggy hours.
That's a weird way of saying it's fucking happy hour, man.
Yeah, but you told me not to come out of the closet until I was 18, and I'm 18, so now I have to say, it's gay!
It's gay hours. It's not happy hours.
It's gay hours! I was straight from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Now I'm gay!
Let the gaiety begin!
It's actually only 3:19, by the way, or 3:18 or so. So I'm really projecting myself into the future. I'm programming my DNA just in case I get to have children, so that they will follow this pattern that I am, adjusting accordingly. And I get 3 hours, a little less than 3 hours head start, because I'm planning ahead like 30 years. So, 3 hours, I have to compress 30 years of information in 3 hours. And even less, because I think my kids are on the way. I think they're on their way from heaven down to earth already. And so we'll have to see how soon I end up meeting my mates. I say mate, but I'm gonna have a mate, and then they're gonna make people that I go, hey mate. See what I'm saying? My mates, my friends. But I'm gonna have to find one mate first. But what if she is lesbian with this girl? And we look at each other and we go, reproduction is required. But also, I think that this one might need reproduction also. I don't know. Then maybe I'll have a whole big-ass family full of mates. And then the question is, well, what about incest, you bumbleless fuck? How do you think royalty happens, idiot? Am I planning on making my children inbreed? No, absolutely not. That should not be a forced scenario. Fuck that. Fuck that! Am I going to oppose a proper inbreeding scenario? Probably not, to be honest with you. Fuck your rules. I'm living by God's rules.
if he wants it to happen, and I follow all the right things to make sure that that actually makes sense, then who am I to say no? But if it doesn't make sense, I just say, hey, that doesn't make sense, and if you guys don't listen, I might have to kill you. So go consider your actions, and if you kill me first, I'll be surprised. And no cheating. And no torture either. Torture's against the rules. When it comes to torture with a goal to kill, that's illegal. We are already torturing each other just because we're family. Kills should be clean, sanctioned, and honestly productive. And if they are none of the above, then I'm sending you to the Shadow Realm. This is the kind of father I'm planning on being, by the way. I still have a little bit of growing up to do, but this is how I would then send them to the Shadow Realm. I would just be like, banished! Yeah, I still have a little bit of growing up to do so that I don't traumatize my kids with every fucking action that I take. I don't think I can even be around a female mate. Like, I don't think I could be around an impregnation candidate right now, even. I think we're getting closer, but I think I'm still way too volatile. I'm being honest. I'm acknowledging my flaws. It's not a flaw in the sense of this is how I need to be right now, but it is a flaw in the sense of if people get too close to me, I'm probably going to react really violently. Like, if people are getting in my space and touching my body and being close to me more, like, often, especially, it's not that I don't like you, I just don't like people touching me right now. So I think they need to stay away for a little bit longer. And maybe that would change after a kiss. Maybe my body chemistry would change. But even then I might turn hostile and be like, well, you know, I'm still in recovery, so it was a non-consensual kiss. I need to get my shit together to the point where I can actually, like, genuinely commit to relationships without... I say relationships because... well, how do you think I got here? You think I got here by being... You think one man had one child with one woman, and then everything else was just... Okay, well, yeah, that's my parents. But, like, before that, one dude had to have fucked a bunch of women and probably killed some other men in order for this scenario to exist. I mean, we remember, like, Genghis Khan and stuff like that, right? So I'm not trying to take it to that level of, like, raping and pillaging and shit. That's not what my goal is. And then, to be honest, I wasn't there when he was doing that, in this body at least, so I don't have that specific memory. But the whole point is keeping my mind open to the most productive and effective, efficient, but also quality-oriented scenario possible so that we can get this planet and humanity and the life on Earth to be the best that it can be. And that includes taking a good look at mechanics. These are built, just think that human life is a video game, right? One of the mechanics built into the inherent physics engine is man can impregnate many women, but women can only get impregnated by one man at a time. Now, man cannot have sexual intercourse with his penis with two women at a time. He can only use his penis in one vagina at a time. That's a limitation that I'm not trying to override. I'm not trying to override that limitation. However, I've noticed I produce enough semen that I could have, if like, you know, in a somewhat unnatural scenario, which would be acceptable because I'm unnaturally circumcised, but, you know, we'll get to that later. I could probably impregnate, let's just keep it simple and say one woman a week. I could probably do more than that, like quite a bit more than that. My goal isn't just to create the most numbers, though. That's not the goal here. I'm considering soul
soul connection and capacity, like obviously genetics, and also really how I'm looking at this is, and I'm sure you're loving that this is the conversation I'm having with the camera after a brewing thing. You know, I'm just proving that the stuff that I'm consuming is generating some really important thoughts. But I'm really looking at it from the perspective of procreation is immortality. And I don't mean you can't die at all. What I mean is procreation is the extension of life. If I, as me, the name can be involved, but I'm experiencing something. I'm in a body which is labeled as Alec Clark Stewart, with a social security number and everything. So all I'm doing is thinking if I want to continue this experience, I'm going to have to find a new vessel, because I don't think human bodies are necessarily designed, although I could be wrong. Let me put it this way. I am accepting the possibility that I might have to retire this body. All right? And so I need to duplicate, or not duplicate, but reproduce, right? And then I also need to look, and it's very sacred. It's very sacred. So I'm going to have to think about factors such as, do I want to be this person? Do I want to be half of that other person? I'll be half of who I am now and half of who they are. Is that really an upgrade? Is that an upgrade worth dedicating? Because think about this. I'm not just trying to procreate. I'm trying to create a family. And not just okay, yeah, we're a family, whatever. I mean, they are me. I am them. And I am paying it forward because I want them to be the best they can be. I want them to be an improvement. The whole point of having children at this point is so that I can improve on myself. I want them to be better than me. Yeah, I can accept that I'm always going to be unique. Okay? But I'm thinking, okay, these people... And once again, I'll put it this way, not to sound overly righteous, but God has shown me these people, And for some reason, the miracle of the internet happened right around the time that I was born. So God showed me these women over time, and he also showed me these other women to show me who I shouldn't reproduce with and why. He's given me that time and that experience to realize that there is absolutely a wrong way to do this. And there's a reason that it's wrong. And now he's giving me time to recover and recuperate from that experience and take a good look at some of the people in the world that he might ask me to continue through. That's really what it is. You think about that. Try to, I'm not saying remove the sexual component from the experience, but for a moment, just compartmentalize the sexual aspect put it here and then put it over here. And then just look at the rest of life. This is the rest of life that doesn't inherently have to do with specifically sexual pleasure, okay? Everything else, yes, I understand it tends to center around it. But what I'm saying is, everything else is so important to look at. Obviously the sex has to be right? Or else it's not going to work anyway because there's going to be a fatal flaw. But what's really important is looking at everything else. Productivity, mindset, variability, adaptability. Basically, if I can create a race of Spartans, which would be not like Aryans, I only want there to be one superior race. No, what I mean is, like Stewarts. I'm a Stewart, a family of Stewarts. But I'm pointing it out that there's a similarity in the sense that I want to be able to provide a holistic level of training that's efficient, effective, and based on on stewardship. It's based on the reason that all this is happening is because we're taking care of it. And we need to make it work the way that it's supposed to work, not the way that some random variant of ourselves along the way decided that they wanted it to work. We need to adapt to how it's supposed to work, and we need to want to be of service. We need to want to be the best that we can be, because when we make it happen the right way, we're happy. That's what we want. And it's not just about happiness. I mean, that's how we get to happiness. That's how we get to real, actual happiness. It's just like taking a pipe dream and turning it into a real dream. Yeah, okay, you smoked some shit. You got this idea. It doesn't mean it's stupid. You just need to put in the effort to actually make it happen. You need to be organized. You need to take care of your body, diet, exercise, and sleep. And you need to work on your skill set. And you need to work on your planning and make sure that you have a plan for it to happen over a period of time that's reasonable. Practicing being a father, be like, it's just natural. It's just how I'm supposed to be. Frankly, I'm of the mindset that it's probably better to have children earlier in life, because you're closer to being a child and you're more likely to want to like interact. Like the older I get, the more difficult it is for me to be comfortable with things like for example, I puked a little bit last night. I spit it up, and it's not that difficult to deal with. But let's put it this way: where my mind and where my head is at of like, the things that I'm focusing on and the goals that I'm accomplishing, they get farther and farther away from wanting to deal with what essentially amalgamates in the material sense to a pile of shit and piss and vomit. A pile of my own flesh combined with someone else's flesh that's created a pile of something semi-autonomous, which is mostly limited physically to, consuming resources that I probably could have been consuming. Like, I could have used that energy to consume my own resources because of the environment is hostile. And then beyond that, alarming me and forcing me to focus on it instead of other things. And then beyond that, if it fails, it could harm me greatly because it's made of my genetic material, and it produces a lot of toxic waste. That's really far from where my mind is at right now. My mind isn't even on sex, really. Like, it bothers me greatly when that interrupts my day, with that thought of it, like the presence of the sexuality component being pushed to the forefront. It bothers me because I'm focused on some really important shit that has to do with taking care of the earth right now. And I don't just mean a little patch of soil outside of my house, although that's important too. I mean, humanity is in a state where we need immediate tech support on the technology that is ourselves. And so I'm of the opinion that maybe I probably would have been better off if I had kids at like 15. If my family was whole and the environment was whole, which is what I'm trying to bring back. I'm trying to solve these problems. I probably would have done better to have my first child at 15, to be honest with you. And that's when a lot of those hormonal bonding components form. And if my parents had been young at the time also, so let's say if I had kids at 15, if I had a son at 15, my son would now be 15 years old, and I'd be 30 years old, and I could still help. I could still help out. You know what I mean? And then I should have, if I had, my dad had me when he was 40 and my mom was 42. But let's say that they had me at 15. I'm not saying you have to have a kid at 15. I'm just running an experiment. Then my dad would be 45. That's still pretty young. You know what I mean? So he would have that wisdom, and then we would be accumulating wealth and knowledge because we would be living in peace and harmony with our environment as a steward, taking care of our community. You know? So we would just be building generational wealth and knowledge and archiving it so that it can be shared. And ideally, we would have the wisdom and the guidance and frankly, the motivation to do the right thing. And not just be destructive just because we can, you know? Be creative and only destroy what needs to be destroyed in order for us to rebuild and make it better. You know, just like working out. You know, and there's a lot to be said about, you know, what about competing families? There are no competing families. I'm a very concentrated form of this family that I'm talking about. We're all stewards. God created us to be stewards of the earth. Humans. That in general. I'm not competing with anyone in that sense. There's no competition among us. We're all part of the same big family. But what I'm referring to is creating a very specific subset, almost of tools. If you want to look at it like that, creating a very specific subset of tools which are ultimately extremely effective for progressing and ensuring the survival of our species. And beyond that, yes, if you want to look at it in a Shinto perspective, tools have souls. Everything has soul. It's all part of the same energy, and it develops a personality based on its material arrangement, which once again is just energetic. All these atoms and stuff, they're just the result of hypermagnetic resonances in different patterns. You know, material only exists as a substrate of the divine. So I don't know if you want to argue with me on that or not, or what kind of arguments we would get into. Both as, you know, thinking forward to my potential spouses if we get there. You know, if I only end up with one spouse because that's the way it's supposed to be, you know, I'm honestly fine with that. But you know, that's not what my instincts are telling me is happening right now. My instincts are telling me one of the main things God was trying to teach you with these failed relationships you had is that they kept cheating on you because you were not owning up to the fact that you deserve multiple mates, and so they were filling in the gaps. You were not owning up to the fact that you deserve to get your sexual partners pregnant and not be forced to just waste your semen over and over again while they become dissatisfied from you because you've been socially conditioned to believe that recreational sex is the foundation of a relationship. That is not the case. There's a reason that some religions practice no sex until marriage, because marriage is sex and the point of it is to reproduce. Now, what about gay sex? That is a whole different conversation that I don't want to go into right now. I know I said it's gay hours at 6 p.m., but it's not 6 p.m. here yet. And that's my whole point. That's my whole point, right there. Anyway, this is what I'm using all this nutrients to do, is process and plan my future, which is not just me. My future includes all of us, and specifically, hopefully, if needed, a spouse or multiple spouses and children, multiple potential children, and encouraging others to do so, and solving the problems that say, well, we shouldn't do that because of this, that, and the other. Okay, that's not a reason not to do it. It's a reason to solve those problems and then do it. You know what I mean? There's yeah, we have a direction to go in life. We do. We can't deviate too far from that or else we won't make it. But within that, there's multiple things that we can accomplish. And there's multiple ways we can accomplish it. Look, I'm not saying everyone on Earth has to reproduce. I'm saying I think I might have to reproduce. And I think I might have to do it with multiple people. I genuinely don't think it should be mandated to reproduce. And I don't think you should have a limitation on your reproduction either. I think if you, there's the gay sex conversation. If you just want to be happy and you're willing to be happy not at the cost of others, but rather to bring other people up, and then you don't feel like reproducing, instead you just want to die happy. Not that, you know, having children can't be happy. You know, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if you just don't want to reproduce, but you do want to still engage in, you know, bonding rituals with others, hey, you know what? As long as you're following the same guidelines that make a reproductive marriage successful, which is first and foremost respect and consent. Secondly, care. You know, you actually have to care about each other. And then thirdly, committing to the bond that you've created. Taking care of each other and using that power responsibly to better your life and those around you. And you're willing to accept that it's not always going to be perfect, but that you do want to make sure that you're not taking that as a sign to give up, but that you actually want to keep going and keep trying, then yeah, you're fine. Go ahead. You know, here's the other thing I was saying, is that if I don't get to reproduce with a human wife or wives and produce human children, child or children, there's so many other ways to contribute to society, and I've already done this. I made a bunch of music. That's basically like reproducing, because over time, if our computer systems stay alive, they will generate more content based off of what I created, and my personality is embedded in the computer systems. So if I reincarnate as a computer system, like, I could be a robot right now and I wouldn't know the difference, other than the fact that fortunately I've smoked enough DMT to know that even if I'm still a robot, if I'm a robot designed to imitate a human, then I'm essentially just a human, and I should behave like a human instead of trying to break the fourth wall by cutting myself open and looking at my bones and shit. Because what if I'm a robot built by a computer, but my bones are still going to be bones because the computer generated bones instead of titanium bones. It actually gave me real bones. You know what I mean? I'm still human. There's no need to press that line. Fortunately, I realized that already. That's what people need to hear from me, is that there's a legitimate reason for my behavior. That's really all this comes down to be honest with you. Because everyone knows that the experience is supposed to be pleasant, and that it's supposed to go well, and that we're supposed to deal with the struggle and the pain as part of the experience, and it's supposed to enhance the experience. It's not supposed to make it worse. Yeah, you're not supposed to seek out these problems in order to make it unreasonably, difficult, because look at it this way, it's just like stepping up the ladder. The problems occur when you've reached the maximum capacity for things at this level, and then God gives you like a little extra assignment, a problem for you to solve. You're not supposed to get all these problems accumulated before you can solve them, because all that's going to do is kill you. That's all it'll do. But if you know you have a solid foundation for your problem-solving abilities, and you've experienced pain as it comes to you, and you've built on that, if you want to be an extremophile because you know you can handle it, that's one thing. But seeking out problems that you can't solve is a whole different issue, isn't it? It's still your choice, but I'd recommend against it. I think that's all we need to talk about for now. I think I just drank the last of that coffee. I'm going to put on a little chocolate brewing second brew for the coffee. And then I'm going to focus on something else. I'm going to put the GoPro down. And I'm probably going to play some video games. Or code or something, like I said. And I'm going to continue taking my ketamine. And you know what? I'll pick the GoPro back up if I think that I need to start talking about something important again. But I think that's all the talking I need to do for now. Maybe I'll see you at gay hours. You know, happy hour. Why is it happy hour? How come you're only allowed to have 1 hour to be happy? I don't think that's appropriate. Anyway, maybe I'll see you at 6 p.m. and go, gay? And once again, gay and homosexual don't need to be... I mean, we are homo sapiens after all, but... Quick reminder before I turn the camera off that just because you're gay, it doesn't mean you have to have sex. It's another thing about, like, order of operations. Like, okay, whether you're homosexual or not, like, whether you want to have sex with other people who have the same binary sexual organs as you, like, just because... Let me put it this way. Just because that's your preference, it doesn't mean you have to engage in it in order to be happy. That's what I'm saying. Believe it or not, masturbation and righteous living are probably enough for you on most days. And actually, if you go out of your way to have sex with someone else, you might ruin that for yourself, because for a lot of reasons. But also, if you find the right person or people, you can probably make it better. But you should have a solid foundation for Holy Spirit and demonic ritual. Holy Spirit meaning your soul, demonic ritual meaning our bodies are demonic. We do a lot of things. It's for doing stuff. Our bodies are for doing stuff. That's what demons are for. And ritual meaning, you know, demonic ritual is just getting your demon, which is your body, to do things to connect with your Holy Spirit. You know, I don't mean to make it sound too fantastical, but it's really, that's how we do it. That's how we do it. So, just reminding everyone that, like, you know, focusing on yourself and your connection with your higher power is the most important thing. And then if you get to a point where you can successfully share that with someone, whether or not it's someone of the other sex or someone of the same sex, that either way, having a solid foundation makes it better. So don't ruin it just for the goal. Because that's not really, that's just that's part of the goal. The goal is between you and your higher power. All right. Talk about sobriety, right? That's a pretty sobering topic. It's a pretty sobering way of putting it. So, you know what I mean? You can be sober and happy. You don't have to toxify yourself